This is the second of 3 videos in which we take a look at a lesser known true wireless IEM. And today we're looking at the Orbit from Campfire Audio. Now I tested these in Berlin in my apartment and out in the street. I tested them on the plane from Berlin to Lisbon. And I've also tested them in my home here in Lisbon and out in the street as well. And in this video, we'll be taking a look at the feature set, the comfort, the app, the phone call quality, and sound quality with music. And ultimately, I hope to answer the question, who are the Campfire Orbit for?
This video is brought to you by AudioQuest, makers of the Dragonfly range of USB DACs. Click to AudioQuest.com for more information.
Welcome back everybody. Yes, the Campfire Orbit are a very attractive IEM, a true wireless IEM. They sell for $249 US, so we're stepping up from the Soundcore Liberty 4 by, well, at least $100. And unlike the Liberty 4 that we reviewed in the previous video, the Campfire Orbit come with a flip-top case. And I much prefer flip-top cases because they feel more robust. And battery life on the Orbit is rated at 8.5 hours from the IEMs themselves, with 30 hours coming from the case. But unlike the Liberty 4, in my testing, I found nothing to contradict those numbers coming from the manufacturer. Another advantage that the Campfire have over the Soundcore is wireless charging capabilities. And the Orbits are also IPX5 water resistant rating, so they're much better suited to sweaty gym workouts. The Orbit don't support LDAC, but they do support AAC, which is predictable because we need that for iPhones, but they also support aptX if you've got an Android phone that supports that codec. But remember though, the hardware inside the in-ear monitor, inside the earpiece, is far more pivotal to what we hear than the codec in play. And inside the Orbit, we get a 1 centimeter liquid crystal polymer dynamic driver, and that outputs through a stainless steel spout. But right off the bat, we need to talk about Bluetooth connection behavior, because Campfire sent me 3 pairs of the Orbit. I don't know why, but they sent me 3 pairs. I gave 1 to Olaf, kept 2 for myself. I'm glad I kept 2 because the first pair had very erratic Bluetooth connection functionality, in that I would put them back in the case and then unbeknownst to me, my phone would reconnect to them whilst they were in the case. So I'd be like browsing Instagram and wondering why I was getting no sound from my phone. The second pair sorted that problem, but Olaf says, yeah, the Bluetooth connections with the Orbit is what he calls erratic. We also need to talk about phone calls, because the Orbit's strength is not with phone calls. The Liberty 4 and the other earphones that we're going to review next are much better at taking phone calls. So if you want to chat on the phone whilst wearing a pair of Orbit, I either recommend you stay at home or you find a very quiet spot outdoors, because wind noise will wipe out your conversation, as will traffic noise. And then there's the app that comes with the Orbit, and there's no sugarcoating this. It's pretty basic, it's pretty primitive. At least it's primitive compared to the app that ships with the other 2 true wireless IEMs that we're reviewing in this series of videos. The Campfire app only allows us to do a firmware update or to turn off certain tap to control features on each earpiece, but that's pretty much it. There is an EQ, but sometimes that fails to load. Now, we'll come to why that matters in a moment. And all of these gotchas are a shame, because the sound that we get from the Orbit, I've got to say, is quite frankly incredible. It just sounds marvelous. In that, the Campfire IEM's head stage is equally as large as the Liberty 4, but we get much more mid-range presence, and we get a more natural, more organic sound, which I can't tell you what a relief it is to hear that after spending a couple of weeks with the Soundcore Liberty 4. And in fact, this is the most natural sounding of the 3 IEMs that we're covering in this series of videos. And it goes further than that, because the sound that I get from the Orbit makes me question the need for some of the entry-level wired IEMs that Campfire Audio make. But a question mark hangs over the Orbit's low-end performance. And it's not even the Orbit, it's the ear tips, because the ear tips that ship with the Orbit the silicone ear tips, are smaller than those that ship with Campfire's wired IEMs, which I have used for years and absolutely love. I'm talking about the Final E type tips. And the tips that come with the Orbit, they're not Final E, they're a lower profile tip, they sit closer to the top of the spout. But that smaller tip makes it harder for me to get a good seal inside the ear, which compromises bass impact. Now I can get it if I finagle the earpiece for a good few minutes. But then I'm locked in place, I can't really move, because if I walk around, I lose that seal. Now you might say, John, well, why don't you use the Final E tip? And I did, and I get a fantastic seal. But the thing is, it's a taller tip. There is more space between the output hole of it and the nozzle on the Orbit, which creates an extra little sort of room inside the earphone package, if you like. So that creates more bass, and the bass comes across as a bit overblown. Now I can EQ that out a little bit, but here's the thing, the EQ doesn't always load. So I can't always EQ it out, which is immensely frustrating. And if you think it's just me with large ear canals and this particular problem, it's not, because my friend Alessandro Cortini also seems to have large ear canals. And he also reports the same fit issue, in that he prefers the Final E tips to the stock tips that come with the Orbit, but they have the bass problem and he has to EQ it out to sort that bass problem out. Oh, it's not really a bass problem, but a boost in the bass that needs pulling back. And I guess adding insult to injury a little bit is that the Campfire come with no active noise cancellation smarts. Now I think this might be why they sound so natural and so lovely. But here's the spicy finding, is that when I was on the plane, I used the Orbit with the Final E tips. And that passive isolation for me was better than the active noise cancellation on the Liberty 4 from Soundcore, which I thought was really surprising. So sometimes passive isolation can be, but not always, better than active noise cancellation. But neither of these two scenarios are as effective as the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3 in terms of cancelling noise, and especially not the Apple AirPods Pro version 2. And lastly, I must also make note of the beautiful packaging that the Orbit comes in, which is why we made a dedicated short to their unboxing. That was the second one, my second pair that I was opening. So the Campfire Orbit are the best sounding for music, as far as I'm concerned, of the 3 true wireless IEMs that we're covering in this series of videos. They sound big and bold, and when you get the seal right, they have tremendous macro dynamic punch. However, that seal issue, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to do about it. I hope that Campfire come out with some larger tips that have the lower profile so they can sit closer to the exit hole of the spout. I hope they sort their app out, because it needs some work. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, this one. It's just a wonderful sound, but with some real life gotchas. So if we want to answer the question, who are the Campfire Audio for? Well, they're definitely for somebody who can deal with not having active noise cancellation. They're definitely for somebody who doesn't really worry about phone call quality and is all about sound quality with music. These really are a music lover's IEM. But I think really, if you've got large ear canals, as I do, as Alessandro Cortini has, then probably they are best suited to listening at home. But you might think that's a bit of an unusual thing to say, but for me, I've used them extensively with the Cambridge Audio Alva TT2 turntable, which has a Bluetooth output, and therefore the Campfire allow me to move around my home while still listening to vinyl. So if you thought this video was entertaining or informative or a little bit of both, then please consider giving us a like down below. If you like my attitude towards portable audio, and basically that not everything is amazing, not every product that comes my way is just sunshine and rainbows always in every respect, because the Orbits certainly aren't, and I think they need some work. So yeah, if you dig that, then please consider subscribing to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and don't forget to stick around for the third video in this series.